SpaceX didn't just revolutionize space travel, it quietly created thousands of new millionaires. Many weren't executives. They were welders, technicians, mechanics, and factory workers who simply stayed with the company. When SpaceX went public, the number of employee millionaires shocked Wall Street. Here's how it happened. To understand how thousands of SpaceX employees became millionaires, we first need to understand what the company actually became. It wasn't just another rocket business. It was a company that completely changed the economics of space. When SpaceX was founded in 2002, its mission sounded almost impossible. Elon Musk wanted to make humanity a multi-planetary species, but reaching that goal required solving one major problem. Space travel had to become dramatically cheaper. Instead of treating rockets as disposable machines, SpaceX focused on rapid reusability. Landing and reusing boosters reduced launch costs while allowing rockets to fly again and again. Every successful landing made spaceflight more affordable and opened the door to entirely new commercial opportunities. Lower costs attracted more customers. More customers meant more launches. More launches created faster growth. Before long, SpaceX wasn't simply competing in the launch industry. It was becoming the global leader. Commercial satellite companies, government agencies, and scientific organizations increasingly depended on its services. But rockets became only one part of a much larger business. SpaceX began building and operating its own satellite network. That network became Starlink, providing high-speed internet to places traditional infrastructure could never easily reach. Rural communities, ships, aircraft, and disaster zones became entirely new markets. Unlike launch contracts, Starlink generated recurring subscription revenue. Every new customer strengthened the business and increased the company's long-term value. As SpaceX expanded, the value of employee-owned shares quietly climbed alongside it. Every successful launch, every satellite placed into orbit, and every new Starlink subscriber made thousands of employee shareholders wealthier. That powerful combination of innovation, recurring revenue, and employee ownership created one of the greatest wealth-building stories in modern business history. Most people believe SpaceX makes its money by launching rockets. But that is only part of the story. The company's biggest breakthrough came after those rockets reached orbit. Once thousands of satellites were in space, they formed a powerful communications network known as Starlink. Instead of earning money from one launch at a time, SpaceX began generating recurring monthly revenue from millions of internet subscribers around the world. Starlink brought high-speed internet to places where traditional networks were too expensive or impossible to build. Rural communities, remote islands, research stations, ships at sea, commercial aircraft, and disaster zones all became potential customers. Every new subscriber added another steady source of long-term income. Investors value recurring revenue very differently from one-time sales. A business that earns predictable subscription income is often considered more stable and more valuable over the long term. That changed the way many investors viewed SpaceX. Reusable rockets made the system even stronger. Every successful landing lowered launch costs and allowed satellites to be deployed more efficiently. As costs continued falling, the economics of Starlink became even more attractive. The larger the satellite network grew, the more valuable the entire company appeared. Employees were no longer helping build only a rocket manufacturer. They owned part of a global technology platform combining aerospace, communications, software, and infrastructure. Every successful launch, every satellite placed into orbit, and every new subscriber quietly increased the value of employee-owned shares. Years of patience suddenly turned into extraordinary paper wealth. Engineers, welders, technicians, mechanics, and factory workers all benefited from the company's remarkable growth. Their stock grants had quietly become life-changing financial assets. But there was one important catch. Becoming a millionaire on paper did not mean having millions in cash. Most employees still couldn't freely sell their shares. The next chapter reveals why their fortunes remained locked away and how one carefully designed system shaped one of the most remarkable IPOs in financial history. Becoming a millionaire sounds simple until you realize you can't actually spend the money. For many SpaceX employees, their new fortune existed mainly on paper, not in their bank accounts. Much of their compensation came through stock options and restricted shares. Those shares usually vested over several years, rewarding employees who stayed with the company and contributed to its long-term success. Without realizing it, patience became one of the most valuable investments they ever made. Every additional year often meant earning more shares and owning a larger piece of the company's future. As SpaceX continued growing, those shares quietly increased in value. Engineers, technicians, machinists, welders, software developers, and support staff all benefited from the same ownership philosophy. But owning valuable stock is very different from having cash available to spend. Many public offerings include lockup periods that temporarily prevent employees from selling their shares. That meant thousands of newly created millionaires still went to work every morning exactly as they had before. Another challenge soon appeared. Taxes, financial regulations, and long-term planning became just as important as the shares themselves. For many families, learning how to manage sudden wealth became an entirely new responsibility. Protecting that wealth often mattered more than spending it. Many early employees continued living surprisingly ordinary lives. They drove the same cars, lived in the same neighborhoods, and returned to the same jobs. The greatest reward wasn't instant luxury. It was owning part of one of the fastest-growing technology companies in history. As the company's valuation climbed, stock appreciation often exceeded years of traditional salary growth. Every successful launch, every satellite deployed, and every new customer quietly increased the value of employee ownership. The IPO rewarded patience far more than a single day of market excitement. And for some early employees, that patience created fortunes worth tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars. Next, we'll reveal who benefited the most and why staying at SpaceX became one of the greatest financial decisions in Silicon Valley history. While headlines focused on Elon Musk and billionaire investors, another remarkable story unfolded quietly inside SpaceX's factories, launch facilities, and engineering offices. Thousands of ordinary employees were building fortunes of their own. Many joined the company years before anyone imagined how valuable SpaceX would eventually become. They accepted demanding schedules, long hours, and stock-based compensation that, at the time, carried no guarantee of success. For many, those shares felt like little more than a hopeful bonus. As the company expanded, those overlooked stock grants quietly grew in value. Every successful rocket launch, every new customer, every government contract, and every Starlink satellite strengthened the business. With each milestone, employee ownership became more valuable. The greatest reward wasn't a promotion or a larger paycheck. It was patient ownership. Employees who stayed with the company through years of uncertainty eventually owned a meaningful share of one of the world's fastest-growing technology businesses. That opportunity reached far beyond engineers. Technicians, welders, machinists, software developers, accountants, office staff, and many other employees all participated in the company's equity program. SpaceX's success became a shared achievement rather than a reward reserved only for senior executives. Over time, thousands of employees quietly crossed the millionaire threshold without ever becoming household names. For many families, financial security arrived gradually instead of through sudden lottery-style luck. Their wealth reflected years of dedication, not a single fortunate moment. The impact extended far beyond the company itself. Newly created wealth began supporting home purchases, education, local businesses, charitable giving, and long-term investments. Entire communities benefited as employee success spread through regional economies. Economists have long observed that when one successful company creates thousands of new millionaires, the effects reach well beyond financial markets. Wealth encourages entrepreneurship, strengthens investment, creates new businesses, and inspires future innovation. SpaceX didn't just launch rockets into orbit, it also created one of the largest employee wealth-building stories in modern business history. And its ripple effects may continue shaping families, communities, and the future of innovation for decades to come. When thousands of people suddenly become millionaires, the effects spread far beyond one company's balance sheet. Greater financial security often means more families buying homes, supporting local businesses, and investing in their communities. Innovation clusters frequently grow wherever successful technology companies create widespread employee wealth. Some employees eventually leave to launch companies of their own, bringing both experience and financial resources to new ventures. One successful company can become the birthplace of dozens, even hundreds of future businesses. Former employees often become founders, investors, advisors, and mentors, helping the next generation of entrepreneurs turn ambitious ideas into reality. That's how technology ecosystems continue renewing themselves decade after decade. The value created inside one company can eventually reshape an entire regional economy. As employees prosper, surrounding businesses often benefit from increased spending, stronger demand, and expanding local investment. The ripple effect reaches people who never worked for the company at all. Greater financial stability also allows more families to invest in education, healthcare, retirement, and opportunities for future generations. Success stories inspire young engineers, scientists, entrepreneurs, and students to pursue bold ideas that once seemed impossible. History shows that major technological breakthroughs often create entirely new industries extending far beyond their original purpose. The wealth generated through innovation rarely remains inside one organization for very long. Instead, new capital flows into different startups, research projects, investment funds, and emerging technologies, accelerating broader economic growth. Today's employee may become tomorrow's founder, investor, or creator of another transformative company that changes the world once again. That's why a successful IPO is often about much more than stock prices or market valuations. It can influence innovation, entrepreneurship, and economic opportunity for decades after the opening bell. But one question still remains. Just how many millionaires did SpaceX actually create? The estimates reveal a remarkable story, not simply of financial success, but of ownership, patience, and long-term value built over many years. So, what's the real number? Financial analysts estimate that more than 4,000 SpaceX employees became millionaires through company ownership. These weren't only executives or senior leaders. The wealth reached engineers, technicians, welders, machinists, software developers, and employees across nearly every part of the organization. Because SpaceX remained privately held for most of its history, no official public list of employee millionaires has ever been released. Instead, analysts estimated the figure by examining employee equity programs, company valuation, ownership disclosures, and publicly available financial information. Different analysts reached slightly different totals, but many independent estimates pointed toward remarkably similar conclusions. For many early employees, relatively modest stock grants gradually appreciated into life-changing fortunes over the course of many years. Perhaps the biggest surprise wasn't how valuable the company became, but how broadly ownership had been distributed throughout the workforce. Every successful launch, every recovered rocket, and every new commercial contract quietly increased the value of shares employees already owned. That wealth accumulated steadily through years of disciplined execution rather than appearing overnight. For many employees, simply believing in the company and remaining committed proved to be one of the best financial decisions of their lives. Ownership became one of SpaceX's greatest competitive advantages, helping attract talented people while encouraging them to think like long-term builders instead of short-term employees. Every milestone represented another step toward both technological progress and growing employee wealth. The company's success demonstrates how innovation can create opportunities that extend far beyond a handful of founders or top executives. Thousands of careers combined to build a company that rewarded long-term commitment with meaningful ownership. The IPO didn't suddenly create all that wealth. It simply revealed value that had been quietly building behind the scenes for years. More than 4,000 estimated employee millionaires became one of the hidden legacies of SpaceX's extraordinary journey. But perhaps the biggest lesson isn't the number itself, it's how those fortunes were actually created. Because this story was never about getting rich overnight. It was about ownership, patience, long-term thinking, and believing in an extraordinary mission long before the rest of the world did. Looking back, SpaceX's greatest achievement may not have been technological alone, it may also have been financial. Thousands of employees became owners instead of simply collecting paychecks every 2 weeks, giving them a direct stake in the company's long-term success. The wealth created wasn't generated in a single day. It accumulated gradually through years of innovation, disciplined execution, and unwavering commitment. Many early employees accepted uncertainty because they believed the company's mission was worth pursuing, even when success was far from guaranteed. Patience became one of the most valuable qualities anyone inside the company could possess. Every successful launch, every recovered booster, and every new customer strengthened both the business and the value of employee ownership. Engineers, welders, technicians, machinists, software developers, and support staff all contributed to the same extraordinary outcome. For many families, ownership became more than a financial milestone. It created long-term security, new opportunities, and a foundation for future generations. Some employees will likely use that wealth to start businesses, invest in new technologies, or support the next generation of innovators. That's how successful technology ecosystems continue expanding decade after decade, with today's employees becoming tomorrow's entrepreneurs. The biggest financial rewards often come not from earning a larger salary, but from owning a meaningful share of something that continues growing over time. Reusable rockets transformed the economics of spaceflight, and employee ownership benefited alongside every technological breakthrough. The company's influence now extends far beyond shareholders, shaping communications, research, exploration, and commercial space around the world. Perhaps SpaceX's greatest legacy isn't simply the wealth it created, it's the example it set by proving that ordinary people can share in extraordinary success. Every remarkable company begins with individuals willing to believe in ideas that others consider impossible. And that's why this story was never just about one billionaire. It was about thousands of ordinary people sharing in an extraordinary journey. In our final chapter, we'll separate verified facts from estimates and explore the lasting legacy of SpaceX's remarkable approach to innovation, ownership, and long-term wealth creation. By now, one thing has become clear. SpaceX's IPO was about far more than a stock market debut. It represented years of shared ownership between a company and the people who helped build it from the ground up. While no official public list of employee fortunes exists, independent estimates consistently suggest that more than 4,000 employees reached millionaire status through company equity. The exact number remains private, but the broader story of widespread employee ownership is well documented and widely recognized. The biggest winners weren't necessarily the most famous executives. Many were engineers, technicians, machinists, welders, and other employees who stayed committed to the mission for years. The wealth created extended far beyond individuals, influencing families, communities, and future generations. Every successful launch and landing represented more than engineering achievement. It reinforced the value of long-term persistence, innovation, and teamwork. None of this happened overnight. It was built through decades of disciplined execution, calculated risk-taking, and thousands of small victories. SpaceX's success belongs to thousands of people working together toward one ambitious vision. The company also demonstrated how technological innovation can create entirely new forms of economic opportunity through employee ownership. The effects of that ownership may continue shaping careers, investments, and future innovation for decades to come. The rockets captured the world's attention, but ownership quietly transformed thousands of individual lives. The lesson isn't simply about investing. It's about creating lasting value before expecting lasting rewards. Great companies inspire more than shareholders. They inspire future generations of builders, engineers, entrepreneurs, and innovators. Perhaps that's the real legacy of SpaceX's IPO, not the number of millionaires it created, but the enduring power of ownership, patience, shared success, and bold long-term ambition.